Hey guys, Nick Peterson. I'm going to walk you through how our company has become 7.2 times more productive. And I wrote that little number right here so I didn't forget. 7.2 times more productive. Now, keep in mind, we're doing well over $100,000 a month when we started. Okay, so it's a pretty significant thing. And I've launched 7 companies now. 5 of them have gone over 7 figures, one of them over 8 figures. And this is the most efficient, effective way to run a business I've ever seen. It would be irresponsible for me to do it any other way now that I know what I know. And I want to share that with you. We just shared it with our private clients, with our mastermind, and it was really, really cool. And I'm going to share with you exactly how we've achieved this and what we do with other companies. Okay. Now it starts with, and this is the most important thing. If you've been in business, you've already made some sales, you know, you have some momentum, you've had some success, and you want more success. If you've never made a sale before, you got to do something different. You got to go make a sale. But if you've had some momentum, okay, removing the limit to growth is far higher leverage and more important than forcing growth, right? So it's a process of examining what is the thing that is preventing us from growing, not how do we force more. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Really, really important lesson. So removing the limit to growth, right, and building systems. As a visionary, I'm not a huge fan of systems. That's not how my brain works, but they're super, super important. Okay, so this is systems. Really, really important, but just like sitting down and building 1 billion operating procedures is not a lot of fun. It's also not high leverage, right? So we have to identify the high leverage stuff, which comes from a knowledge database, okay? So these are the things that we need to have as foundation. We have to have a learning organization. Everything we do gets recorded, tracked, logged, and the organization learns from it, so we never make the same mistake twice. Okay, the systems just simply build the operating procedures, delegate, automate, optimize, get yourself out of it. Okay, the driver though, okay, and this is the really cool part. This is where we start seeing massive, massive improvements. We call this velocity. And this is the engine that is going to drive it all. Now let me tell you what that looks like. Prioritize, align. So identify the limiting factors. Okay, align your team. So all the C-suite, all the big players in your team understand and agree that these are limiting factors. Okay, do the thing that you need to do, like action, you know, it's important. Do the thing and then adapt. And it's this adapt piece that makes all the difference, okay? You will blow by anybody in your industry. I'm telling you, if you already market and you already sell, you're gonna blow by everybody. Okay, so it's prioritize, adapt, or prioritize, align, do and adapt. Okay, prioritize, align, do and adapt. Prioritize. So typically, we just write a priority list. This is the stuff that needs to get done. We never really examine, is it high leverage? Is it removing a limiting factor? This becomes a task list. So what we do is you prioritize, these are all the things that need to get done, okay? And then we identify the limiting factor. So let's say the limiting factor is sales. And maybe another limiting factor is you don't have room for another client. So not only do you need sales, but if you did sell somebody, you didn't have room. Let's just say, so capacity. There, sales and capacity, those are limiting factors right now. So what we do is we go through this priority list and we say, does this directly remove or address either of these? If no, don't do it this week. Does this directly address any of these? And you're going to be surprised how many things you're doing that are not removing a limiting factor. And so what you're doing is you're pushing the gas harder and harder and harder, but you got your foot on the brake. All you got to do is take your freaking foot off the brake. So this is what we're identifying here. Like, how do we get our foot off these brakes? Because no matter what we do, if we're not getting more sales or increasing our capacity to serve, we're not going anywhere, right? So we prioritize and then we filter. Okay, we filter through the priority list based on the limiting factors, okay, your limits to scale. Hopefully that makes sense. Drop a comment, let me know. But we prioritize, we identify limiting factors, and then we continue to filter based on the limiting factors. So let's say sales. The best way we've gotten sales before is, or what's the limiting factor? We're not getting enough phone calls. We have to generate more phone calls. How are we going to generate more phone calls? Maybe we hit the email list. Maybe we do some organic marketing. Maybe we ask for referrals. Right? And then we task this stuff out. Who's going to hit the email list? Who's going to do the organic? Who's going to do the referrals? Now this is kind of like when you tell your kid to clean their room before they can go out and play with their friends, and then you realize you have completely different definitions of clean, right? Very, very important here in this alignment phase that we identify what is called complete criteria. So you, your partner, the people in your organization that you trust, there's probably 2, 3, 4, up to 5, have to identify, okay, you're going to hit the email list. What does that look like? 4 emails driving to the application, 2 emails to nurture, and 2 for a deadline. Define what this looks like so that it gets done right, it gets done right the first time, and it never has to get done again. You're going to save so much time and money in your organization. I'm telling you, like, this process pays for itself 1 billion times over, okay? Do more organic. We're all going to interpret that differently. Identify the complete criteria. Decide on a complete criteria, okay? Generate referrals. How are you going to do that? Complete criteria, okay? So that's the align. Let's talk about the do. Actually, let's talk a little bit more about the align. Okay, this is really, really important. So let's say Nick, that's me, has to do an email campaign. And we are trying to decide complete criteria. So we decide the complete criteria. 3 emails, 2 that nurture, and a deadline. Whatever it may be, right? Now as humans, right, this is the human behavior component, really, really important. As humans, we're really bad at guesstimating time. We are oftentimes we're off by a factor of up to 2 or more, which means we might guesstimate 3 hours, and it could take 1.5, or it could take 6. Obviously, we can't plan with any kind of certainty anything in our organization if we're going to be off by this much. We're much, much better, though, at guesstimating size. Is that a small chair or a freakishly huge chair or a medium-sized chair, right? We can identify size. So what we do is we take this send email campaign, which is 3 emails, 2 nurtures, and a deadline, with the deadline funnel and, timers that work, and whatever the complete criteria is. And then we say, is that a 1, a 3, a 5, an 8, or a 13? So instead of trying to say, ooh, the pain is a 6 out of 10, because we don't know the difference between a 5 and a 6 and a 7, right? We chunk small, medium, pretty big. That's a huge task. This should probably be 2 tasks, right? So maybe sending email campaign would be a 3. Maybe for you it would be an 8, and for a world-class copywriter, it's a 1. So now we're learning what can each person in our organization take on, and maybe we start tasking differently, because if this is an 8 for me and it's a 1 for you, we will operate better and get more done. We'll be more productive as an organization if you do the frickin' campaigns, right? So that's the align, and then you do. Okay, you do the damn thing. And what happens after you do is you adapt. So let's say a week later, we come back and we say, we all thought this was going to be an 8. It ended up being a 3. Now we know. We thought it would be a 1 for you. It ended up being an 8. Now we know. This goes into a knowledge database. We'll talk about knowledge database in a minute. Okay, so now what we're doing is we can tell after about 4 weeks, there's about 4 weeks of like really trying to figure this out. After 4 weeks, I could tell you exactly how much your team can repeatedly and consistently get done. Not on a great week, not on a, Holocaust week, but consistently over time. I know exactly what my team can do. I know exactly how to set deadlines, and I know who should be doing what, right? Because we've adapted. Again, this pays for itself many, many times over, all right? And so as we adapt, we keep a learning log, and the learning log is simply, what did I learn today? What am I going to do tomorrow? What are the impediments? And sometimes when I enter what are my impediments, or I'm like, I really hate logging into Zapier. And somebody on my team says, oh, I didn't know you were doing Zapier. Let me take that off your plate. Okay, so as we're adapting, our organization is becoming more and more efficient. When we started as a team, right, we were getting 5 points done. 5 points. And we went from $0 to $100,000 a month in like 7 months, right? At using the old way, which is only a 5. A couple weeks ago, when we remeasured, we got 35 done. And what's happening is we are constantly moving things around, adjusting, because we want to, if we take on 35 points in a week, we want to finish all 35, right? We don't want to leave anything undone. So our whole team now, it's been gamified. Like, they want to complete their points. I want to complete my points. And we want to get a maximum amount of points, which means if I have this task that's an 8, but it's going to be a 1 for you, I want to give it to you, because then, boom, that's a point, and I have the bandwidth to do more stuff. Okay, this is the velocity method. It's really, really cool. And then, this is the fun part. This is how, this is the big difference for people that do systems and operations and operating procedures, right? So we've prioritized, big P there. Okay, we've prioritized. We've identified limiting factors. We've aligned, and we've done the thing, and we've adapted. Okay, we're going to go back to the next limiting factor. So we removed this limiting factor. We took our foot off that brake. What's the next brake? What's the next point of friction? But right here, prioritize, align, and do. And as we're doing and adapting, we're building a system so that never has to get done again. This problem never comes back up, which, you know how valuable that is in somebody that's eclipsing 7 figures, to never have to deal with the same problem twice. We are simply identifying the limiting factor, aligning, doing, adapting. And that is the velocity method. Now, when you bake in the systems thinking and the learning organization, you actually have something that grows exponentially, has an exponential impact, and you can actually leverage yourself out of as much as you want, because you never have to do the same thing twice. And so that is the velocity method. Again, if your limiting factor is marketing, this is a marketing program. If your limiting factor is systems and operations, this becomes a system and operation program. It's actually, my COO is heavily, heavily involved, because we're so big on leverage and running lean and productivity and profit. Hey, all you have to do, if you want help, is click the link. It's going to go straight to an application. You'll get on the phone with me. I will talk to as many people as I can just to help them figure out how to implement this right now. Now, it's not a sales call. I'm not going to try to get you to buy anything. I'm going to try to figure out how I can help you implement this as fast as possible, because I will never have to burn another business down, and I will never burn out again. And this is just the most phenomenal thing. I want to share it. I love it. If you do decide that, hey, look, I need help, I need somebody to play that other side, I need an operating person, my COO and my operating people will be happy to actually meet with you every week and implement this. But just click the link below, schedule. There'll be an application. I'm going to review it, and then I'll give you a link to schedule. We'll get on the phone, and we'll show you the fastest way to implement this into your organization right now.